Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about this very important issue. As a husband and father of 2 daughters, this is very important, obviously. Me and as a representative of many women in my district on the Central Coast. Let me just take a couple seconds to rebut my good friend and colleague from Pennsylvania in regards to the American Rescue Plan. I have no problem engaging on the ARP, especially considering what the American Rescue Plan did during the pandemic and keeping the economy afloat, keeping our poverty rate flat, and literally keeping us in the race between infections and injections. In addition to that, we're at a point right now in which we can deal with the effects of inflation. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates. Our personal debt is at the lowest rate. Our savings are high. Our job creation rate, our small business creation rate is both high as well. In addition to that, we have a solid footing upon which we can deal with any potential effects of inflation. So as much as my colleagues like to disparage the American Rescue Plan, you have to realize that it has given us a solid footing upon which we can deal with any effects from inflation and deal with the recession, as a potential recession as we go forward. So I appreciate that, but also know that the ARP has given us a good foundation, a good footing to go forward. In regards to the issue of working families, every community in every district in every state is obviously affected by the issues that we're talking about today. In the communities that I represent, one of the biggest challenges to working families is the rising cost of housing. Median home prices on the Central Coast of California are now close to $1 million. My goal is that we can make that piece of stable middle-class life accessible to all families. But more importantly, what I'm hearing is the fear from the families that own homes is that their children will not be able to come back to the area and continue to raise families there on the Central Coast. So, Ms. Huey, I want to talk to you about the low-income housing tax credit. You mentioned that in your testimony, and obviously that's something that I support in my co-sponsorship in working with Representative Del Bene on the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act. This is a bill that would increase the number of credits and make other changes to make the credits more accessible. Critically, the legislation would lower the tax-exempt bond financing requirement for projects from 50% to 25%, which could allow us to double the amount of the LIHTC finance projects, especially in California. How do the home builders utilize LIHTC, the low-income housing tax credits, and in what ways do you support credit expansion?
Mr. Panetta, I know that we do support it. I am not in the multifamily industry, so I'm not as versed and able to talk about that, but I can certainly get you a written answer after this.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Let's talk about something else that you talked about, and that's creating job training opportunities. Obviously, programs make trades attainable for folks at all income levels by advancing education without forcing job seekers into debt. But pathways into the trades, including non-traditional apprenticeships, need to be expanded, is my take. How would you recommend to make apprenticeship pathways into the trades more attractive and more accessible to women?
You know, I tell you, I talked a little bit earlier about seeing the kids get on the bus when I was in high school, and those were the troubled kids. And I didn't want to be on that bus. So we've got to change the mindset that that's not for the troubled kids. If I'd got on that bus and gone to the vocational school and learned about home building then, I would have saved my parents 2 years of college money, because I learned later in life that that's where I wanted to be. So supporting those programs that we have throughout the country, there's many states that have different programs, but supporting the vocational training and making it more appealing and making it look like it's not lesser than a 4-year college degree. I can also quickly tell you a story about one of my workers. He runs ductwork for the HVAC company. His aunt insisted he come to Birmingham and go to school at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. He got there and he realized the student debt he was going to take on and decided he needed to learn a trade instead. He went to work. He has a 4-year-old son that they're paying for him to go to private school, but they're also paying off $100,000 of student debt that his wife has. He recently, 2 years ago, started his own company. So those are the kind of stories that we need to make sure that people know and to make it more attractive for kids to go into the trades.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Huey. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I thank